want to share a story with you out of a movie I watched, and it's called Facing the Giants. And the story's kind of wrapped around this guy. He's a coach. He's a high school football coach, and his name is Grant Taylor. And so to give you a little history of this guy, he's been a coach. He's starting his 7th season, and he has had 6 years of a losing season. As a matter of fact, this year, for the third time, his best player is transferring to another school. On top of that, the dads of the players, they want to get rid of him. Their kids haven't been on a winning season. They think he's not a coach, and they just want to fire him. They want to move somebody else in. But on top of that, the fact that he has a car that keeps breaking down, and his stove at his house won't work, and the dryer won't work, and he doesn't make enough money to replace that kind of stuff. And to top it off, he finds out that he's the reason his wife can't get pregnant. Wow. Okay, so one morning he's sitting in his office, and there's this guy named Mr. Bridges. Now, what Mr. Bridges does in the mornings is he comes into the school and he walks by and he touches every locker in there, and he's praying for those kids in that high school, and he's praying for revival. But this morning he passed by all that, and he went right into the coach's office. And he said, "Coach," he goes, "in Revelations 3 it says, God opens doors that no man can close, and he closes doors that no man can open." And in 3:8 it says, "See, I have set before you an open door. I see you have little strength, but you have kept my word and not denied my name." He said, "Coach, the Lord is not done with you here." He says, what you are to do is you are to stay right where you're at until God tells you to move. He says that you need to bloom where you're planted. Remember that phrase, you need to bloom where you're planted. He goes, "I just felt led to tell you that," and he turns around and he walks away. And the coach is sitting there, and he's kind of processing this whole thing, and I guess he's thinking about where his life is right now. And he gets up and he walks after, and he catches Mr. Bridges in the hallway, and he says, "Mr. Bridges," he goes, "you know what? I admit I've been struggling." I said, "But I don't see God at work here." Mr. Bridges said, "I heard this story about 2 farmers, and they both desperately needed rain. They both prayed for rain. But only one of them went out and prepared his fields." And he said, "Which one are you?" Nope, I take that back. He said, "Which one are you?" And no, gosh, okay. All right, let's take it back. I got a pattern here of skipping things. So he asked him, he goes, "Which of these 2 guys do you think trusted God to send the rain?" And he goes, "Well, the guy who prepared his field." Then he said, "Which one are you?" He says, "The Lord will bring rain when he's ready. What you need to do is prepare your fields to receive it." So think about that. Can you relate to this guy in your life? Can you see where he's at? Does any of that resonate with you? Maybe with your job, maybe with your relationship, your home, your car. Now I want you to think, what about your life? If you were to take it a step down from where he's at, where are you in your life? What's going on in your life where you don't see God at work in this? What kind of troubles or hardships are going on with you today? And how are you responding to it? I'm wondering how he's responding to those kind of things. So let's think about this. Think about what a field is comprised of. You know, think about a garden. As I was talking about a garden. You know, what do you have to do to prepare? You have to clear the field. It's got rocks in it. It's got weeds. You have to turn the soil, right? And you have to plant seed. So what I'm asking you guys is, what are you really doing here as it equates to your life and your relationship with God? How are you preparing your field? You know, we all want things from God. We want the world from God. But what are we offering Him in return? What are we doing in our lives that would have God bring rain to those fields? You know, some of us want a job. Some of us want to be married. Some of us want our marriages restored. But if I have attitude and I'm an angry person and then God gives me a job, you know, how long is that going to last with the way I'm acting? And if I'm upset and I got a foul mouth and I'm critical and unforgiving, why would God allow or try to restore my marriage, right? We need to be doing something along the lines. Jeremy said when he spoke a couple weeks ago, we seem to look for the hand of God, but how many of us are actually seeking His face? You know, we want what God can give us, but what are we willing to do? What are we willing to give to God? Do you have habits or addictions that are hindering your walk? You know, is your life too busy? Is your career too important? Is your schedule get in the way of what you want from God? You know, I think all of you being here are looking for a relationship with God. You know, we may be desiring that closer relationship with God, but what are we doing to make that happen? You know, how are you preparing your field? You know, I hear stories about I don't have time in my schedule, or my job's too important, or I got to take care of my kids, or what about this, or what about that? You know, what's getting in the way? You have activities or hobbies. How many hours a week do you invest watching TV? You know, we want a relationship with God. We want to see Him move in our lives. But what are we willing to do to make that happen? What are you doing to make that happen? Okay, well, let me in my life, in my marriage, I was married for 10 years. And I was angry, and I was selfish, and I was bitter, and I had a foul mouth. And when Rhonda made me mad, I let her have it. Then I became a Christ follower. And I was still angry. And I was still bitter. And I was still doing those things that I had been doing and crying out to God, why aren't you doing something in this marriage? Why isn't it changing? Why is it still like that? See, I was crying out. I was asking for God. I wanted my marriage to work. I can remember Rhonda saying to me, you need to do something about this marriage. And I told her that if you will leave me alone long enough, I'll figure it out. Wasn't much honor in that statement. And it wasn't too long after that I found myself separated. Rhonda was done. Got 3 kids, a wife that doesn't want me, and my life turned upside down. See, I was a Christ follower at those times, and I wanted God to restore my marriage. But I was looking for Him to do something for me, and I wasn't willing to do anything on my own to prepare a way for God to make a difference in my life. But I tell you what did make a difference after that. I decided at that time I needed to stand up and do the things that I had been reading for years that God was asking me to do, the things I was talking to other people about what they should do in their life. So I started to make this stand. I started to plow my fields, you know. So and some of that looked like this for me. When my kids would come over and I had just finished talking to Rhonda and hearing what she was about to do to me and what the lawyers were going to do, and when my kids walked in the door, I just wanted to tell them what kind of mom they had. Ephesians 4:29 says, "Let no unwholesome word come out of your mouth, but only that which will build others up." So I chose to bite my tongue. And when my kids rejoiced about something with their mom, I rejoiced with them. And when my kids were hurting for their mom, I still wanted to rejoice, but no, I hurt with them. And I'm not perfect at this. I didn't do it all the time. I'd get on the phone with Rhonda, and she would make me so mad. And she would say something, and then I would say something, and then she would say something, and by the end of it, somebody was hanging up. God said, in your anger, do not sin. So how was I going to work that out? Well, when we talked, I learned this, and this was through a process, that when I didn't respond to something she said, and I just listened. As a matter of fact, for a while there, if she wasn't asking me a question, I didn't say a word. If she wanted to vent, I let her vent. But by the end of the conversation, we were saying, okay, goodbye, and hanging up. Next time she'd say something, my back hairs would get up, I'd respond, and you know what happened after that. So I learned some of these principles in here were really working. Another one was forgiveness. Really, God? Forgive her after all we've been through? And now we're divorced? You know, shouldn't that chapter be ending? So can I move on from here? Jesus says, if you want me to forgive you in front of my Father, then you need to forgive your brother who's in front of you. So I started doing things for her that I should have done while we were married. I started serving my ex-wife the way I should have been serving my wife. And I tell you what, the way God has blessed me, and the way God has changed my life, and the way I've seen Him transfer the way I think, and the things I do, and the things that I say, man, I would not trade any of that junk I went through because of where I am today with Christ. See, I have been preparing these fields for years. Should I have done it before? Yes. Wish I had? Yes. But would I go back? Not if it took away what I have with this relationship with God now.